Hi, welcome to today's video. So today I thought I would talk about one of my Black Friday indulgences. I decided to pick the Pat McGrath Ecstasy in Sublime. So this is, I think it retails for $28 usually, and during her, I think it was 25% off if you spent below $150 or something. Yeah, so basically I got 25% off of this palette, and so that kind of brought the price down to 20, I think, and that was a pretty decent price to pay for this palette. And I don't own any of her palettes, and so this was like my foray into the Pat McGrath world. And so yeah, so this is actually intended for people to kind of sample her products without paying, you know, $125 for her full-on eyeshadow palettes. So it's actually a great move from her company that way. And as you can see, the packaging is not as let's say luscious and luxurious looking as her full-on big palettes, or even her small quads, which have now come out for her holidays. So this palette basically comes in this bag, which basically has a lot of sequins in it. So this basically, the Eye Ecstasy, it comes in two variations, and one is a Sublime, and the other one I think was, I don't remember the name. That one had more colorful shades, and I decided to pick this one up because this was more of an everyday palette versus the other one. And I thought, okay, if I'm paying for Pat McGrath, I might as well buy something I can use on a more regular basis. So the packaging, as you can see, is plastic, and it kind of reminds me of a pencil box. This is actually okay to some extent, because it's, you know, you don't have to worry too much when traveling. This is pretty sturdy for that purpose. But yeah, for a luxury brand, I still think the packaging is just not, you know, good enough. Even the Natasha Denona palettes are probably slightly better packaged in my opinion than this, but this is okay. The aesthetic is slightly different from what I've seen so far, so that way it's kind of nice. The eyeshadows themselves are, I think they are a gram each. Yep, there are 5 eyeshadows, each one is a gram each. And I guess there are enough people who've talked about this palette on YouTube. So yeah, I'm guessing all this information is something you're already aware of. So I just thought I would anyway talk about it because I have slightly mixed views on this eyeshadow palette. I'm not completely nuts over it, let's be honest about that. The shades, as I said, they're nothing revolutionary in terms of, oh yeah, nothing revolutionary basically. These are your everyday kind of shades, especially these shades here. And these are all shades which are there in her, I think, single eyeshadow, you know, available as singles. And I think some of them are also there in her palettes. I'm not very sure about which ones are available in her palettes. So yeah, like I said, this is great if you are entering into the world of Pat McGrath for the first time and you just want to sample some of her eyeshadows and get a feel for her formula. And this unfortunately doesn't include any of her special formula, you know, the duochromy kind of shades which you find in her bigger palettes. Well, that's not there here, and that's probably why I'm a little disappointed with this palette, because these are very average in my opinion. I basically didn't find these to be worth the money in a way. I might be in the minority here because I just didn't find the formula to be that great. I have other eyeshadow palettes, especially from, I think it was Jouer. Yeah, Jouer does really nice metallic shades, and you know, they basically perform better than this. I did experience some amount of fallout with, I think, this shade. I experienced fallout, I think, with this shade as well. They're all very pigmented and creamy. The only problem is, again, the fallout. And I also noticed that with these two shades in particular, I noticed that they fade with wear, you know, throughout the day. And that was really disappointing because I don't have too many eyeshadows that actually fade on me. I have dry lids, so that's the first for me. And they also crease. These two shades, and actually these three shades, they crease like crazy on my lids. And that is very shocking because I have dry lids, and like I said, I rarely experience creasing, fading, these kind of issues with eyeshadows. So I was very surprised. So let me know if it actually works for you, like in terms of you know, the longevity, as well as in terms of the creasing and all of that, because I was quite surprised. And I basically used my usual eyeshadow primer. I use the Essence I Love Stage eyeshadow primer. It's very cheap and it's very effective. It works with all my other eyeshadows, so I wouldn't blame that particular primer for this problem. So I don't know, so it has to be the formula, I guess, because even my cheaper eyeshadows work well with that primer. So yeah, so that's like a bummer here. And like I said, the shades are nothing new either, so that was also there. Overall, I'm not too happy with this purchase. I wish I could actually give this back, but I purchased it from the website and I threw away everything. I threw away the bills, I threw away, I don't know if they had a return label either. So I basically threw away everything. So there's really no way for me to return this. I was so sure that I would like this and I wouldn't have to return it. So that was a bit of a bummer. But anyway, I decided to make this work since now it's there in my collection. And here I can give you some swatches. And in this, they actually swatch really well, even with a brush. The swatches are great. The main problem, like I said, is fallout. When I put it on my eyelids, I do notice that the glitter just falls everywhere. So this is the first shade. Oh, by the way, these shades do have names and they are at the back of the palette. So this is the first shade. I think this first shade is called Sinful. Yeah. So the next one is Gold Nectar. So if you are a Pat McGrath fan, I'm sure you know the names better than me, I guess. Next, yeah, this is Gold Nectar. This one is a bit crumbly and there is a bit of fallout. Oh yeah, you can see the fallout there, but yeah, this is actually a little bit better than that one. But on the eyes, this one fades. And actually this too, that fades as well, which is quite a bit of a bummer. I didn't read the reviews on Sephora, and I did, like, recently when after I was, you know, used this palette and I was a bit bummed by it, I read some of the reviews on Sephora and there are people saying that it did fade on them as well and there was creasing. So I know that I'm not the only one who found it not so great. There are people who also say that the quality of this palette might be a little less compared to the full-on palettes because it's cheaper. I don't know about that. And yeah, so that's the third shade, which is called Sextrovert. And now we have this one. This is, oh yeah, and this is basically an all shimmer palette. You probably need to pull out a matte palette to use in conjunction with this. I don't mind that because I do have small palettes or small quads which have mattes, so it works well to like travel with this and a quad full of mattes. So I am not too bothered by that. What I'm bothered by is the fallout and creasing. Oh yeah. So those are the 5 shades in this palette. As you can see, yes, the colors are nothing new, nothing revolutionary. Unfortunately, neither is the formula. So I'm quite bummed by that. So yeah. And also, I'm not the biggest fan of this packaging. I don't want a bag full of sequins. I just hope she does away with this style of packaging. I'd rather she invest a little bit more on the actual palette packaging versus all the sequins. I basically kept the sequins to just film this video. This is probably going to go in the trash, and it's plastic and it's unnecessary waste. Yeah, if you're crafty, you can use this for something, I guess. I don't know. So that's my review for the Pat McGrath Eye Ecstasy palette in Sublime. Do let me know what are your thoughts on this if you have this and how you've made this palette work, because it's not really working that well for me. And yeah, this is kind of a, you know, a fail for me, unfortunately. Thank you guys. So I'll catch you again next time in another video. Bye.